Well, good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in about 30 seconds. So if we could get your attention, please. Okay, let's get started. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to our international audience from Europe, India, Mexico, Scandinavia, UK, US, and Canada. My name is Jim Downham, and I am the CEO of PAC Packaging Consortium. So we're delighted to be here with you today. Thank you for attending. More than 4 years ago, PAC recognized a need for a dedicated summit to feature disruptive packaging supply chain innovations. We wanted to showcase the world's game changers as PAC wanted to advance the world of packaging. As such, the PAC, Packaging Innovation Disruptors Summit, was launched in 2019. This year of COVID, there is no exception. We are back virtually, and last week on day one, we brought to you the launch of paper-based coffee packaging from Sweden, the Loop story of their reusable packaging system and its global expansion into Canada, the collaborative 10-country network of plastic packs, and our upcoming disruptors on the radar, including a UK paper-based protective packaging solution. Today, you will hear from passionate UK leaders. They're up there on the screen, and I'm going to introduce them to you in a moment. And we're going to talk about accessible packaging innovations. We're also going to hear from German and US collaborators that are solving plastic packaging recovery with technical digital watermarking. And we're going to hear an intriguing, smart, reusable, refillable pilot in Chile by Walmart, the world's largest retailer. And finally, a US-based digital short-run flexible packaging producer. Welcome to day 2 of PAC Disruptors Summit, an opening session entitled See Packaging Differently. I first met Pete Matthews last December to announce that Kellogg's was a finalist in the 2021 PAC Global Leadership Awards. He proudly shared his Cocoa Puff packaging story. I'm pleased to say that I have one of these amazing packages with me today, and you can see the Navilands image right there. And if you haven't downloaded it, you should. Please do so. And when he shared that story with me, for me, it was an aha moment in time. And as a career packaging leader, I immediately recognized this was a game-changing packaging innovation. This is a story that had to be shared with the world. From there, I was connected to another panelist, Sam from Procter & Gamble. Their package was a 2020 Best of Show PAC Awards winner. Pete and Sam then introduced me to another common link, Mark. Today, these 3 leaders want to change the world, and PAC is here to help. They will share an inspirational story that will make everyone see packaging differently. I'd now like to introduce them individually and introduce Sam Latif, who is Procter & Gamble's first company accessibility leader. Sam is leading P&G's thought leadership and commitment to making products, packaging, and advertising accessible for both the growing aging population and the 1.7 billion around the world with a disability. Pete Matthews has been head of brand design and operations at Kellogg's in Europe for the past 7 years, overseeing all packaging design, artwork, and POS. Pete led the transformation of the cereal packaging portfolio in 2019 with the biggest redesign in Kellogg's history. By the way, Pete, I haven't told you this, but it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Congratulations. He believes in the power of packaging as demonstrated in that redesign, the value of design, and the simplification of brand communications. At Kellogg's, Pete is committed to inclusive design and more accessible packaging for everyone. Mark Powell is the Strategic Accessibility Lead for the Royal National Institute of Blind People. Mark is a passionate advocate and evangelist within the world of accessibility, having represented the RNIB since retiring from his professional sporting career. Yes, he's a real athlete, folks, as a Paralympic judo athlete. Mark works closely with a number of global organizations to raise the bar when it comes to accessibility and inclusion, creating sustainable, long-lasting social change. I'd now like to ask Mark Powell to kick off our session. Please take it away, Mark.
Thank you very much, Jim, and hi, everybody. I hope you're safe and well wherever you are in the world right now during this time. So thanks PAC for inviting us today to talk about this subject, which is incredibly exciting to share what we're going to be sharing today. So yeah, my name is Mark Powell. I'm the Strategic Accessibility Lead at RIB. My role is, as Jim said, to raise the bar in accessibility by working with disruptors and catalysts for change within industry. And RIB is here to support the 2 million people in the UK living with sight loss to live the life that we want to live. I live with sight loss myself. I've been registered blind since I was young. Now, I'd like to share my personal story. So as Jim mentioned, yes, I am a real life athlete. And actually, if we wind the clock back 10 years ago, I was representing my country. I competed at London 2012 in judo. Now, I'm not going to go into judo too much, but if you think of Daredevil, you're not going to go too far wrong, which I was regularly called during my career. But judo is a weight control sport. We have to make weight every single time, and therefore nutrition and our diet is incredibly important to us. And taking on protein, taking on the right vitamins, it's really key that we look after our bodies so that we can be at peak performance every day when we fight and when we train. And this information, the way I used to access this information was actually, now if we think 10 years ago where smartphones were at back then, cameras were there, but they weren't as good as they were now. But I regularly used to take photographs of packaging to try to use my phone. It wasn't a smart device back then. I don't think I had an iPhone. God, we're talking such a short time ago, but technology's moved on so much. And yeah, zooming in on packaging, it was tough. I couldn't make that choice and determine whether something was actually going to be really good for me, or whether I was eating something that could potentially put weight on me when I didn't want to add the calories. Now my teammates used to think I was a little bit strange because I was taking photographs of packaging, and my phone was full of photographs. And yeah, so I very much built the memory capacity of my phone up to its maximum, or I'd simply just be asking people what was in this, just so I could make sure I was looking after myself. But at the same time, 10 years ago, and I wasn't at RNIB back then, and some of my colleagues who are still here at RNIB today tried to solve one of the problems and one of the issues that's been around as long as we're all living, and that is the accessibility of packaging. Now, as I say, this is something we all interact with on a daily basis. And actually 9 in 10 blind and partially sighted people from our research either find it difficult or impossible to read packaging, which is crazy. You know, choice, independence, you know, control of our own diet is incredibly important. And I've talked about, you know, the control of my diet that I used to have, but there are really, really important things to consider on packaging as well. You know, on PAC, there is allergen information, you know, critical allergen information, sugars, and this information it's there for a reason. You know, it's really important, but it's not accessible. Now, 10 years ago, like I say, the technology that we had at our disposal, it wasn't there. You know, I talked about my really, really poor camera, you know, on my Nokia device that I had at the time. We didn't have that technology. It was impossible. Braille was featured on packaging, but, you know, for all of that information on PAC, you just can't simply fit that information on there. We haven't got the real estate. We didn't have the real estate to fit Braille information on packaging. And so now, and I'm not going to steal Pete's thunder a bit later on, but you know, we have demonstrated now that utilizing technology that we have at our disposal, actually, you know, innovating within this space can provide everybody with an inclusive way to access vital and key information. And that's why the three of us are here today, to bring this subject to life, to see packaging differently, see this in a completely different way. We're all consumers. Yes, we're talking here about, I'm talking from the perspective of the 2 million people in the UK. But as Sam's going to go on to talk about very shortly, you know, that goes much, much further. So, as I say, we're going to be hearing from Pete a little bit later on, and Pete's going to be sharing the incredible collaboration that ourselves in the UK at RIV led with Kellogg's to innovate and bring about the next generation of access and information on packaging. But throughout this journey, I've met so many amazing people. Back when I started working in this space, I didn't even know what an SKU was, let alone how to innovate packaging. But now, you know, through the people that we've worked with over the past couple of years, I'd like to introduce one of them right now. So I'd like to hand over to Sam Latif, who I've had the absolute pleasure of getting to know over the past couple of months from Procter & Gamble. And she's going to be taking this a little bit further and sharing her story and giving it further insight into this subject.
Thank you very much, Mark. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Such a privilege to be here today to talk about a subject that I'm just as passionate about as Mark is. And today I'm going to take you through the journey that we've been on at P&G Beauty for herbal essences. And I'm going to just start off by introducing myself and taking you through my journey as well, and then sharing with you what we have done with herbal essences in the US before handing it over to Pete. So let's start by watching this video that introduces the work that I've been doing and a bit about me. Technology transformed my life personally. Ever since I lost my sight at school in a drama class, technology has been vital to how I access the world around me. Technology was the reason I wanted to work in a global company like Procter & Gamble and really transform the way business was done using technology. What I love about a technology-driven career at P&G is that it's a journey of discovery. We want to use STEM to make our products, our packaging, our environment totally accessible for everybody.
One of my personal highlights in my career has been bringing the insight into the company that there's millions of people around the world who have low or no vision, and that's actually exaggerated when people are in the shower when they don't wear their contacts or glasses. I made a recommendation to the company to invent tactile markings on bottles that would help you differentiate by touch shampoo from conditioner. We came up with a very simple way to implement this using laser technology. I was able to physically lift the bottles off the line. The feeling was just electric. I had been thinking that for many, many years. P&G had actually opened the doors to enable this to actually happen. I'm the first woman in my family to go through university and have a career. Being a woman at P&G has never posed any barriers. I've been personally enabled to have the freedom to go and discover and look in places that have never been explored before. I feel like I've got a great balance. I feel like I'm a great mum. I do the best at work. All the things that are very important to me, I feel I can achieve them with a career at P&G.
So let's go back in time a little bit. I wanted to share with you, as someone who is blind, growing up, there was a lot of packaging, products, the environment, school, everything was not really made for someone who is blind. I mean, if you think about a bottle of shampoo and conditioner, it's a simple packaging that everyone is used to, but for a blind person, quite often those bottles felt identical. We couldn't tell them apart. And so you would have to invent your own compensating behaviors to remember which one was which. And quite often I would put a rubber band on the shampoo or the conditioner to help me know by touch which was which. But that requires you to go and find a rubber band every time you want to take a shower, or even when you start living with other people, like kids, they will remove the rubber band just for fun, or position your bottles in different ways in your bathroom. So it's not always easy to do. And, even things like a watch or a phone, or there was many gadgets that people could create for people with disabilities. And on the surface, that may look good, yeah, at least there's some products out there that can help the poor disabled person or the poor blind person. But it didn't feel good. It doesn't feel good when the rest of society have like nice looking watch. When people buy a watch, they don't only buy it for its functionality, you buy it also for the style, how nice it looks. For blind people, there was nothing. It was just, you got this terrible old talking watch. And if you press the time, everybody in the room would know that it's now 15:18, the time, So it never felt very inclusive. The game changer for me was when Apple launched a smartphone. This was the first time in my life that I touched and held a device that was for everybody. This is a very inspirational product for everyone. And I could not believe that this smartphone, a flat screen phone, could be used by a blind person. Not only a blind person, but if you were deaf, or if you had any other learning difficulties, even, if you had tremors in your hands, you can use the same device. We all can use this device. You just have to adapt the settings to suit, what your requirement might be. For me, I use something called VoiceOver that converts the text into audio. And this device was phenomenal because not only could I now use a normal phone like everyone else, but it opened the doors for me to do things that were previously impossible to do. So things like my grocery shopping, I can now do on my mobile device. I can check my bank and make financial payments on my phone. I can even help guide my husband, who's really not very good at maps and stuff. I can actually direct him now from A to B using my phone. And so all of a sudden, I'm totally like everyone else. I feel part of society. And I thought, well, if Apple can create a product so accessible, we in P&G can make all of our products accessible. And that's when I changed careers and started becoming, working on accessibility and inclusive design. And I'm P&G's first company accessibility leader. And I'm now responsible for making our products, packaging, our environment, our recruitment, everything accessible for all people, employees and consumers around the world. There's 1.85 billion people in the world with a disability, 1.85 billion. They have a disposable income. We have money to spend. We want to spend it. We want to buy products. So that I've got money to spend. I want to buy your products. If you make them accessible, I will buy them. I will become 10 times more loyal than any other consumer, because once I find a product that's accessible and inclusive, I want to keep buying it, because I want to reward that company that thought of someone like me. So it's not just a nice thing to do, it makes money. This is a money-making strategy to help grow your business. Let me explain a bit more here. Inclusive design, it's about how we can make our products usable by as many people as possible. So this chart you see here, on the x-axis you have the people, the type of people, and on the y-axis you have the number of people. So on the left, what you see are people, regardless of think about the product that you own, that you sell, you'll have people who find it easy to use, the people on the left, right? So, very easy, tech savvy, but if it's technology or if it's a bottle of shampoo, they'll find it easy to open it, use it, read it, dispose it. But then there's some people in the center who may find it difficult, so maybe someone has got one hand, or someone can't see, like they can't read all the instructions, so they can get by, right? And then there's people on the right who are totally excluded from using your product because it's not inclusive, because it's not very accessible. And what we talk about when we want to make our packaging inclusive is we want to bring those people who were previously unable to use our product into the curve so that they can use your product. So if you think about the example on the herbal essences, on the tactile, there were previously people who would not be able to differentiate by touch shampoo from conditioner, but they can now. So that we've brought them in, we made them, into the curve of people who can actually enjoy our product. So inclusive design is not about creating unique products to help the disability community. It's about making your product so accessible that you actually make it accessible for everyone. And the trick is, if you design put someone with a disability in the center, because when you design with someone with a disability, you actually will create a delightful experience for everybody. Now, I want you to think about text messaging. Texting was designed by and for the deaf community before it became mainstream. The actual computer, the first computer or the typewriter, the person was blind for whom it was created for, but then it became so mainstream that it's something that, we got computers out of it. So if you put someone in the center who has a disability, who has the biggest frustration, if you put them in as your inspiration, you design products that are actually like delighters for everybody. So here we have, when we launched Tactile on our herbal essences range in 2018, we received a phenomenal response from the blind community and from the media as well. I personally went to hundreds of conferences where there were people who were blind and introduced the tactile markings. I physically took their hands and showed them what the tactile felt like, how it works. And really, it was such a heartwarming response. People would come to my booth and start crying because they said, I can't believe a company like P&G has thought of someone like me, because there's no other companies. We're not, less than 4% of businesses are actively making products accessible for consumers with disabilities. But we're not the only ones that have done this. So I wanted to share with you, you may be familiar, if you're sitting at a keyboard now on your laptop or like any kind of keyboard, look at the F and the J key. There are two tactile lines on there that have been there forever. I've never seen keyboards without it. but these help people like me, because I have a normal keyboard, a normal laptop with a tactile line there. It helps me to orientate the home keys on my keyboard, and I can touch type on that. I have a computer, so I can hear what I'm typing, but I use the F and the J key to orientate myself on the keyboard. Every ATM machine on the digit 5, there's a tactile dot. And even when you go to the supermarket, you know, when you tap, you can see the keypads there. Most of them also have a tactile dot. So this isn't new. But what's new is we've introduced this to products like shampoo and conditioner, which is absolutely amazing. And I would really love for the entire shampoo and conditioner industry to reapply these tactile symbols. So we have a universal way of product identification through touch. But recently in the UK, I'm not sure if anyone's in the UK, if you've got a 10 or a 20 pound note, the new money that's been released since, I don't know, like the last couple of years, they have tactile markings on them too. So, you know, I can tell the difference between a 5, 10 and a 20. And that's something only recent. I was never able to do that before, but now I'm very confident when I give people my money, I know what I'm giving them. And this is, you know, like what Mark said earlier, it gives you tremendous independence and confidence, and you feel part of society, which is so, so important. Now, product, you know, I talk about the tactile, which is very useful on a day-to-day when you're in the shower. You need to touch things when you want to know the difference between one product from another. It's very good to have that quick product identification. The other thing that we need is more information about the product, and this is where I'm going to hand over to Pete, because there is digital technology that Pete's going to talk about that helps you to understand what's in that product, how that product works. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm handing over to Pete to talk about how to learn about the product.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, such an inspiring story, that, and I love those herbal essences packs. And actually, they inspired our journey here at Kellogg's too. So hopefully you can see my screen now. And I'm going to tell you the story behind our special edition Cocoa Pops packaging, which we created to support World Sight Day. And hopefully you've had a chance to download the Navalens or Navalens Go app, which Mark is going to demo next. And if not, there's still time to download it from the App Store or Google Play. So this story started with someone called Zuleika Karolia, who works at the Kellogg's UK office in the IT department. And Zuleika was at a lead network event in London where they played Sam's video about herbal essences, which you've just seen there. And she was really inspired by this. So she brought the idea back to an internal presentation at Kellogg's and was challenged to do something about it. So she arranged a visit to a specialist school for the visually impaired in northwest England called St. Vincent's. And the kids from there also visited our office and talked to us about accessibility. You can see their smiling faces there in the picture. Now, at Kellogg's, we've got a clear commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Our vision and purpose includes the phrase, creating a place at the table for everyone. But what does that mean for our packaging? And the truth is, we didn't know the answer. When Zuleika first came to see me and asked these questions about accessibility, it made me feel a bit uncomfortable, to be honest. But that's a good feeling, to be out of your comfort zone, because it provokes change. So we started talking about what could we do to make our packaging more accessible. And if you fast forward a couple of months, we'd put together a small project team and made a connection with the RNIB. First with their local branch and then the national office where Mark works. And we decided that the best way for us to raise awareness about the issues people with sight loss experience while shopping was to produce this special edition pack to support World Sight Day. and use it as a trial to demonstrate what could be achieved. We worked in partnership with the RNIB and St Vincent's School to develop the most suitable design to address the widest possible spectrum of sight loss conditions. It's obviously very important, as Sam said just there, that we had input from people with experience of visual impairment to help us find the right solutions. So the first thing we wanted to do was add Braille to the pack. This is employed by embossing, so it can be an expensive addition to the print process, but we felt it was necessary. It's particularly important for raising awareness. Everyone's heard of Braille. But actually what we discovered is that less than 10% of visually impaired people actually use Braille, and it's in decline. People are using technology instead. So then we started looking around at different technology and heard about this amazing software called NaviLens. So NaviLens, it's a bit like a QR code, which you scan with your smartphone to get an audio playback of all the labeling copy that's on the pack. So it gives everyone access to the nutritional information. And as Mark was alluding to earlier, some of this information on food packaging is critical. If you think about allergens or specific dietary requirements or best before dates, this information really needs to be available to everybody. So NaviLens, it's a bit like like a QR code, but it's smarter. It can be read 12 times further away, much quicker, within a 30th of a second, in lower light, from a wide angle, and unfocused, which is very important for visually impaired people. So, I mean, I've tested it loads here, just waving it in the general direction of a pack in the distance. The app picks it up instantly. It's really effective. And hopefully you can try it yourselves at home. And there are many benefits to NaviLens, not just for the blind or partially sighted. It's got translation capabilities, so you can choose in which language the copy is being read back to you. So there are benefits there for non-native speakers. It can filter product information, and it even has augmented reality capabilities. So it can be utilised to assist with dietary requirements. It's a fantastic piece of tech. And the interesting thing was, NaviLens had never been used on packaging before. It was developed as a navigation tool and was being used on transport networks in Spain and the US. So it's perfect for our trial because we wanted to try something new which could potentially make a difference. Then, to make room for the Braille on the front of pack and the NaviLens code, we also wanted to optimize the graphics on the pack and consider how could we make the design more inclusive. So we simplified the artwork by removing the food photography from the front of the pack and some other design features, and amplifying the remaining brand identifiers, particularly our mascot there, Coco the monkey, and a clean, solid background in Coco Pop's yellow. And by simplifying the design, we could also increase the font size for the ingredients and other text and enlarge all of the remaining elements, making the pack easier to navigate for people with varying degrees of sight loss. So through this process, our design agency, Air Global, were inspired to continue evolving their knowledge in this area and become industry experts in inclusive design, which is another great byproduct of the project, in that it will enable them to help their other clients to benefit from this expertise. So we had our trial pack ready, launched it on World Sight Day in October 2020 as a retailer exclusive with the Co-op, a UK retailer. And the impact was massive. We had loads of media coverage, and the sentiment for it was all completely positive, which was great. More importantly, the feedback we had from the sight loss community was just overwhelming. The RNIB conducted a survey, and you can see some of the comments here on screen about what a difference it made for people by enabling them to shop independently. And just the fact that their needs were being considered by a big company, that's inclusion. You see this quote here, I love this one from Laura Facci, who's a Paralympian gold medalist. The prospect of being able to go into a shop by myself and buy my shopping is such an incredible opportunity. So think about that for a moment. That's coming from an elite athlete empowered to do her own shopping by this NaviLens technology. And I was going to mention again that Mark is also an elite athlete. I have to do that, otherwise he'll beat me up after this presentation. So the one item of feedback we had repeatedly was, why can't we have NaviLens on all packaging? And that really resonated with us. This was a limited edition, but why can't it be unlimited? And that's exactly what we're doing. So following the success of the trial, we're now working on a plan to roll out NaviLens across all of our cereal packaging in Europe. So keep an eye out for more news on this coming soon. In the next couple of weeks, there's going to be an announcement. Finally, at Kellogg's, we're really, really proud of this work, and we want to share our learnings so that other brand owners can make their packaging more inclusive. My advice would be just to take the first step. We didn't set out on this journey with a clear strategy for accessible packaging. We just wanted to do something to raise awareness about the issue. We didn't even know about NaviLens when we started work on the design. We were focused on the Braille. But you have to take that first step as a leap of faith and see where it leads you. And now we're fully committed to this journey and working on other plans for more inclusive design. So with that, I'm going to hand you back to Mark, who's going to give you a bit more perspective and demo the technology for you. Over to you, Mark.
Thanks a lot, Pete. And yeah, to build on what Pete said, you know, from our survey, the feedback was incredible. I mean, to see some of the comments which said, I have particular allergies, and I can now understand and make sure that I'm safe. You know, or I have diabetes and I need to absolutely make sure that I don't take on too much sugar. This is vital and critical information for some people. And, you know, this is now bringing that level of information to people in an accessible format. Now I'm gonna show you how NaviLens works. And this is where you guys, wherever you are in the world, can actually take part as well. So if you've downloaded the NaviLens app, on screen, there is the NaviLens code. And if you, during this, if you point your smartphone camera in the general direction of your screen, you'll be able to experience exactly what I'm about to experience during this demonstration. So next to me, I also have a packet of the Cocoa Pops that was launched in October last year. Now, like Pete said, the difference with NaviLens is that it can be detected from a distance. So unlike a QR code, which you have to detect the QR code from close proximity, it's not like that. You can actually detect this code from approximately 3 meters away. So when it's on the shelf, you can detect it and walk down an aisle. Now, if you open the NaviLens app, depending on which one you've got, so I'm going to open the NaviLens Go app. And Sam touched on earlier about the iPhone, and I'm going to talk about iPhone. I've got an iPhone. I haven't got my phone that I had 10 years ago, thank God. But, you know, technology's developed so much, as Sam said, and iPhones contain functionality inbuilt in them, which allows us to access them in whatever way we want. Now, I use VoiceOver to access my text messages and all of my social media, like Sam does. Now, by utilizing NaviLens and the inbuilt functionality embedded within the iPhone, I can access the product information on the box, or which is the code on the screen, in a way that I want to. So I'm going to turn my voiceover on.
Settings button.
And if I point my phone in the general direction of the box that I have next to me,
previous screen button, banner, landmark.
Now, after the click, I've now got all of the information on this pack in an accessible format on my phone. So I'm going to now go through that using voiceover.
Recommended serving size 30 grams. Heading level 3. Energy 486 kilojoules, 115 kilocalories. Fat 0.6 grams, less than 1% of your reference intake.
Now, all of this information's on here, including information for recycling. Now, I've made the mistake many a times where I simply don't know whether a box is recyclable or not, or whether the packaging that I've got is recyclable or not. So, and I amongst everybody else, you know, we play a part in looking after the environment. That's what we want to do, you know, but that information is simply not there in a format that we can access it. So for a number of reasons, this is an incredibly important subject, and we've demonstrated through our work with Kellogg's that this is now possible. NaviLens is a simple artwork change, so CMYK colors. This is a change to the design. We're not talking about, you know, adding technology, you know, or sticking things on. We're talking about an artwork change here, a colorful QR code, which, you know, we're incredibly excited about. And NaviLens goes further than packaging, as Pete said. It's been implemented around the world on travel and transport, within Barcelona, Madrid, New York, just to say a few. So we're incredibly excited about this. And, you know, we are, like Kellogg's and like Procter & Gamble, you know, really passionate about raising the bar in accessing this information. And we would love it if everybody would follow suit and come with us on this journey to transform packaging. Thank you.
If I could now ask everybody to join me on the panel, please, on the screen. Mark and Sam and Alan. Sorry, I'm with you. Okay. Mark, that was fantastic. Wow. Every time I have a conversation with the three of you, I get more excited. And as somebody that's, I won't tell you how many decades I've been in the packaging industry, but quite honestly, I've never seen anything quite like this. It's pretty phenomenal. And the call to action, you know, if brand owners aren't jumping all over this, whether it be via a tactile process that Sam talked about, or a NaviLens, or really, I'm sure there's all kinds of other innovations out there. To me, this is a huge, huge opportunity to change people's lives tremendously. As we can see, 1.78 billion people out there. My calculation tells me that's close to about 20% of the total population of the world. So it's pretty phenomenal and very, very exciting. So let me just ask you a couple of questions directly. And Mark, let's go right back to you on NaviLens for a moment here. I actually downloaded it and it was instant. It was amazing. And, you know, can you detect multiple codes at once? And how do you control what you want to look at? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jim. And you can actually, you know, detect 200 codes all in one go. You know, so whatever your smartphone can see, you know, you actually, you know, a standard iPhone, you know, below an iPhone 11 has got 160 degrees of vision, where an iPhone 11 and above, you've actually got 180 degrees of vision there. So you can detect multiple codes at once. Now, if you want to filter that information, let's say we have multiple Kellogg's products on a shelf and I'm only looking for Cocoa Pops, that information can actually be filtered. So it will ignore everything else. So it will ignore Frosties and Special K and any of the other products. And it will only alert me to Cocoa Pops. And it will also direct me to the product as well. So it will give me a range of audio cues to let me know using 360 audio where that product actually is. So you are always in control of this. And this is what's incredibly important. And this is why we focused our attention on Navilens, because we are effectively simulating our sighted counterpart. You know, whatever our phone can see, then therefore, you know, that will then be relayed to us in a way that we want to have it, whether that's voice or using our magnification function. So yeah, it's a consideration that's been really important, because you don't want to be bombarded with information.
But Pete, let's switch over to you. I mean, when your marketing folks found out that somebody could walk into a store and get access to 100 of your products in the shop all at once, I mean, they must have said, can we go tomorrow? Can we get it all done tomorrow? I mean, tell us about the reaction from your marketing people, your brand people.
Yeah, the reaction has been hugely positive, and everybody sees the how it provides such a great solution for people, but also how much potential it's got to do more. It's really started a conversation internally about, well, what else can we do? What else can we do in terms of accessible packaging, inclusive design, and just embedding these principles into our just everyday process. But yeah, I mean, the Navilens code is just incredible, and the fact that it is, as Mark says, it is a simple artwork change. There's obviously logistical challenges in terms of getting that applied to your whole packaging portfolio, as people will know. But it's doable. So we've got a plan to do it for our European portfolio, and then from there, we're planning to take it across our other categories and our other regions and markets.
I would think that the digital print folks, the HP Indigos of the world, would be salivating over this. I mean, with their capability to be able to literally print every package differently in one go, that's pretty phenomenal. Have you had conversations with digital printing world?
Yeah. To be honest, we're looking at digital print for various things, and Navilens would certainly be part of that. But it's not restricted to any kind of print process or anything else, because it's just a graphic change. It's just, you got to think of it in terms of, it's like just adding your barcode or a smart or QR code to a pack. It's as simple as that.
Sam, let's switch over to you and talk about tactile for a moment. I mean, one of the things that really, you know, for somebody who has the luxury of being able to see, and that image that you had on the screen of a shampoo bottle with two elastic bands wrapped around it, I mean, that just really in one visual image demonstrates the challenges that everybody that's visually impaired has in their lives about every single thing that they have to do. I mean, just a simple decision between, am I shampooing my hair, or am I putting conditioner in my hair? To talk about what you were motivated and took yourself down the path of tactile solution. Was there an inspiration for you as well to do that?
I think, well, partly you can call it inspiration. I call it frustration. You know, when I started doing this, I actually came into it from a point where I was trying to make my colleagues at P&G understand, and about some of the challenges that not just me but people with disabilities face, and I got them to experience firsthand by wearing glasses that simulate sight loss, or I gave them gloves that restricted their movement in their hands. And I came up with these challenges that were my own personal challenges or people I knew challenges. So shampoo and conditioner was just one example where I always found it frustrating. You know, the amount of times as a blind person you ask people, can you just tell me what this is? You know, it's like, tomato ketchup and mayonnaise or garlic sauce, or there's so many products in the same package, full fat versus low fat milk. All these things are a daily frustration in my life, and they still are, you know. And so I brought that to the people at P&G just to help them get just an idea of what just one problem is in our life that the industry hasn't thought about, and then came up with a solution as well. And I was really lucky that, you know, the challenge, you know, putting them in the shoes of people with disabilities, it really opened up people's hearts and minds. And then it really got them to, you know, to support me in this idea of putting the tactile, because we realized that, oh my God, it's just a, you know, it's not just a small thing that we've done, because like Pete said, there's a lot of technical challenges bringing this to life, but we had the support of the senior leaders to make it possible, you know. And so it's really helpful when everyone in the company has that understanding of the challenges that people like Mark and I have on a day-to-day basis.
I mean, seeing those quotes, Mark, must have been incredible, you know, like powerful to you, that your fellow Olympian, you know, just the independence that it gives people like yourselves. It must be just, I mean, it's a feeling I can't imagine. You know, tell us a little bit about that, and because I mean, it's just so huge. We don't realize it, just how big it is, the market itself.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. And Laura, you know, when we first started to speak to Laura, you know, she was actually she mentioned that one of her current ways of access and packaging information, the way she would do it is because she used to order a shopping online. When the products turned up at her house, she then wouldn't know how to cook something, or whether, you know, or what was in the product, without actually going back onto the online portal, trying to search through her existing receipt, and then clicking on the product to try and find out the product information. So there were so many barriers to actually getting that information. And so, you know, but when you look at the other side, which is actually going into a store and browsing, and then going up to finding a product, and then really understanding that product, you know, there's two customer journeys there, where actually having the information on packaging in an accessible format is incredibly important. So, you know, it's been this has been a real journey, and yeah, you know, the feedback has been incredible. And, you know, Pete touched on it earlier. I think in all the years I've been at RNIB so far, you know, for the most negative feedback we had was actually, why isn't this on everything? You know, why can't this just be done? This is just so good, and this is something that I've never ever been able to experience. So yeah, it's we're really excited about this, and, you know, it's been a great journey, like I say, so far, and I say so far because, you know, this has really disrupted, you know, the thinking of the major brands, you know, which is it's really exciting space now.
Yeah, and I loved what you talked about, Pete, going into St. Vincent School, and you felt embarrassed having the conversation, and clearly you took that first step, and you saw something there that was powerful and meaning to you. Just tell us a little bit more about, you shared with us your journey and the way that you're going to expand your products into Europe, but talk about any other inclusive design that you're considering within Kellogg.
Sure, yeah, I guess we're looking at everything. So we're going right back to the drawing board, working with our agency, and just considering contrast of colour, size of copy, and just simplification of artwork, so it's easier to understand. But we're very conscious there isn't like a one-size-fits-all approach for this. So we're trying to evaluate what are the optimal design principles that we can embed in our sort of everyday ways of working, which then address the widest spectrum of sight loss conditions, but also other conditions. And actually, a bit like what Sam was saying about inclusion earlier, someone quoted something really good to me when we were doing this project, which was, if you include the few, you include the many. And so we can come up with very targeted solutions for particular conditions, but actually you end up benefiting everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the expression that Sam used in her presentation, where inclusive design is just, it's better design. And I didn't, I looked at this package a little closer, and I mean, the front of it is so clean and the real estate is so sharp. And then when I looked at the back of it, and again, it just tells the story and it's so clean, and it's brilliant overall. So not only is it inclusive, but it's just so much better. And you're seeing that pretty much with everything you're doing?
We're just at the beginning of that journey, to be honest, Jim. So we've done this, obviously we're taking this from a special edition to then rolling it out everywhere. Right. But then also we're just looking at how do we bake it into all of our design projects, like regardless. And so, the agency are training their designers to look through this lens when they're working, and it just becomes just everyday practice rather than like a bolt onto the design process. It's just part of what we do all the time. Right.
Well, thank you. I'm going to bring my colleague Alan in a minute to help with some questions from the audience. But before we do, I just want to, Sam, I want to just talk about the business model. And, Procter & Gamble is, obviously a leader in their field for sure in terms of the things that they do. I love their strategy around accessibility, and I think it's brilliant they designated you as the first person. But how challenging was it to talk to them about the business side of it from the financial perspective? And maybe just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jim, it was actually not very challenging at all. So I think my job was really easy. Once I had the conversation with them maybe 4 years ago and shared the business case, that there's almost 2 billion people in the world with a disability, and we at P&G are so proud of our research that we do, our who we call them, and we look at people from male, female, different social ethnic backgrounds, but we had not considered people with disabilities in our consumer research that we do, and that's almost 20% of the population. And so it was a real big aha moment. I almost could see the light bulb going on, and so after the conversation, literally a week after the conversation I had with our CEO, with our senior leader in the company, I was offered this job, and then I was given the white space to go and figure it out. But I've had no resistance, Jim. To be honest, the work is snowballing in every region, every business wants it. It's actually, I feel so proud that this company really gets it, and is putting their money where their mouth is, and we're actually doing stuff to make things more accessible, universal, and inclusive. So, yeah.
I loved your call out to even the competitive marketplace to join on and just deal with I call it the dots and lines on your shampoo and conditioner bottles. But talk about Procter just for a moment, and your expansion internally within your company in terms of taking that concept beyond herbal essence.
Well, we're on a journey, and we are looking at all of our product designs more inclusively, more holistically, and looking at how we can design them so that they can be used by everyone. So we are working this, at an entire company level. And I think all I can say is just look out for better products coming into the market in the next few years, because I'm not allowed to talk about stuff that's not launched yet, but I'm very comfortable, confident, and and I would really encourage every company to think about tactile, to think about digital, to think about their products to be opened more accessibly, because it's something that's good for everyone. So, and we can all work together to making it happen. We can learn from each other.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. I mean, we're excited at PAC to be a part of this journey with all of you. And we're, as you know, we're talking about launching a new category in our global awards this year, just specifically for accessibility and inclusion. So I'm just publicly announcing that to the audience that come July, August, you'll be able to see that. Mark, I'm going to just close off my part of the conversation with you and then turn it over to Alan. One of the things that got me excited was when you got excited when we first talked about how your phone was ringing off the hook. And I'm not going to use your words because you need to do that yourself. I don't know how much of it was confidential, but you talked about other packaged goods organizations in the world reaching out to you. Can you share anything with us about that, please?
Yeah. So yeah, since the launch of the collaboration that we had with Pete and Kellogg's, what was clear is that we were reached out to by multiple brands who all shared this common theme that underpinned everything that they were doing, which was how can we bring accessibility to our business? How can we make our packs more accessible? And during those conversations, I mean, there were things brought to my attention, even through one of the brands who own detergent, who said, we have safety information on our packs and instruction information, and I didn't even know that until they told me during that call. Right. So we obviously can't go into it too much because all the brands are at different stages in their strategies, but and Peter's and Kellogg's have been incredibly supportive in actually being supportive of those conversations that we're having with other brands, because this isn't a competition. Accessibility is something that actually is vital across all brands, across everything that we do, but it's something that doesn't, the more this is scaled, and the more this becomes the norm, the greater take up and the greater achievements we have here. So it's been an exciting journey since October, I can tell you that, and to date now, there's the enthusiasm amongst industry leaders is immense, and I hope that continues.
Thank you, Mark. We're just delighted to be a part of the journey. So, Alan, I see that you probably got a lot of questions in the chat, which should have belonged in the Q&A. I should have mentioned that, but that's why you're with us, because you're brilliant at managing that side of it. So jump in, please, will you? And what have you got from the audience?
First and foremost, I have had so much fun with this app. I stood the other side of my office here, and I was amazed at how my phone picked it up and gave me all this information. So absolutely amazing. And I did not know that you had capabilities like voiceover on your phone. So just thank you for waking me up here. And you've seen all of the fantastic comments that have come through the chat box. So there's lots of excitement. And so thank you, all of you, for taking that first step on the staircase. And we have lots of questions here. So I'm just going to get going in the time that we have. This one's from James Lee. Is Kellogg's collecting interaction data with Navilens? What percentage of consumers have used this in relation to total packs sold? There's an interesting question. Pete, probably for you first.
Yeah, I don't have any specifics on that. What we did to begin with the trial, it was just a limited edition. So there were only 10,000 boxes printed and sold in specific stores. So I haven't got any of the information on that data. But the capability is certainly there. Once you've got the Navilens code on there, you can track exactly how it's being used.
Thanks, Pete. But same question, I think, for Sam and even Mark here. When we think about tactile markings, P&G must be looking at interactions and trying to look at the influence that has in terms of building business. So Sam, what are you seeing there with P&G?
So we did some, and we did a lot of work at the initial launch, but then we went back a year later to see how, whether people even knew about the markings and how effective they were. So we've been conducting qualitative research, and what we found is that quite often people are not aware that the markings are there. But once they find out, there's such a big aha moment for them, like the smile, the excitement in their voice. It's really crazy. So we need to do better at making people be aware of the fact that they are tactile, that this does exist, because this isn't the norm, right? This is only like, we're the first company in North America to do this. We're the first brand to do this. This needs to become mainstream. Everybody needs to have tactile. Everybody needs to have something like NaviLens on there, because if it's just one product, to download an app for one product, you will never remember to do things like that. But if we all make all of our PACs tactile and digital, then it just will become a norm, so we all need to work together to make this more powerful.
Mark, what's your perspective when you see all this learning coming in? What does this mean to the RNIB?
Yeah, and the Kellogg's work as well. This was the first implementation of NaviLens. This was a trial for us all to really learn and understand whether this would work and how people would feel about it. So, it is important at this stage, to say this is the first brand and the first implementation of this that we've done. But as touched on throughout, what we did here, we gathered the data and from our survey and research, and we actually stirred a pot that hasn't been stirred for a long time, because it's something that that we've come to accept as the norm. This has been something that's been, we've been excluded from a long time. But the minute now we've got the technology to do so, and as we start to bring this to the forefront and start talking about it, the more interest and the more demands there are for this equality. So this is really important for us at RNIB, because this is access and control of information. This is about inclusivity, and this is about equality.
Thank you for those comments. Another good question here. Thank you. This is great, because everyone's asking this question. How can we move forward and be more engaging with our teams in inclusive design? So this is all great perspective. And then we have some detailed stuff here from Blaise Fernandez. Are there any limitations on the info contained in the barcode and the size of the barcode that can be printed? Pete, maybe we should go to you for that one.
Yeah, there are specifications. It's recommended in terms of a size to put it on the front of the pack. So what we're working to is 30 mil square. But basically, the bigger you print the code, the further away you can read it, so the better it is. So we're actually looking at, do we include it on point of sale or on the top of aisles in supermarkets, and have it bigger to navigate to the aisle, as well as what we put on the pack. But yeah, other than that, yeah, there's just standard print specifications that you would have with anything you would print on the pack.
And Sam, any comments in that respect to tactile markings in terms of location and just access to its size? And I'm not describing it right, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think it's just where it's more intuitive. It's just common sense. Our markings on herbal essences were actually at the bottom, at the back of the bottom of our herbal essences bottles in the US. And the reason that they were there was because of a technical limitation, or we had a laser etching machine. So we could only laser at the bottom of the back. They told me that you can laser anywhere you like, so long as it's the bottom of the back below the label. So I didn't have a choice, but my preferred option would be at the top. So, you know, as you're intuitively in the shower looking for your shampoo or conditioner, your hand naturally goes to the top. So that's where it would be better to locate things. And again, with things like, I don't know, like toothpaste or whatever, it needs to be where your hands would naturally go. And the other thing I would really focus on is not just the location, but the depth of the tactility. Many companies try to do Braille, or well, just Braille, because nobody's doing tactile much, but we end up compromising because we can't get the depth right. So, you know, it needs to be 0.8 millimeters deep. We need to get that depth so that when you're feeling it, you can actually feel the definition and know what you're feeling, not have flat or difficult to detect. So that's going to be the biggest challenge in the industry, I think, when we try to do this.
Mark, any comments in terms of location, sizing, and any learning process with these types of technologies?
Yeah, and you know, again, to build on what Pete said, we learned a hell of a lot from this trial. We actually, yes, although we had it on the front of PAC, which I've got in my hand now with the NaviLens code, we also put it on the side to really begin to understand, you know, where's the best place to put this? Is there benefit in putting it on the front and detecting it from a distance? And yes, there was, you know, and in terms of size, some brands aren't going to have the real estate that Kellogg's have. You know, there's a great size box there with space to do this, and NaviLens codes, you know, can still, if scaled back, you know, if shrunk down, they can still be detected, and they still have a lot more benefit than the standard QR code for multiple reasons, which, you know, I won't go into now for you know, as you know, based on the time. But you know, and let's be honest, you know, they're not NaviLens. You do need to download an app, yes. You know, QR codes, you can now detect them through the smartphone camera, which are great, but you know, that took a long time. I think QR codes first came to the market in 1992. So, you know, it took a long time for Google and Apple to integrate them as part of the operating system. And you know, hopefully, as we move forward with, and when there's critical mass generated from this, you know, that could then be something that's explored in the future.
Thank you, Mark. Well, Jim, I know you want to get final comments, but I needed to put a smile on people's faces. Of course, we have a packaging audience here. And this one question came through. I'm not asking anyone to answer, but I think it's a great question for us. Are there plans to use this technology for other products to improve the recycling rates of packaging? And I guess the answer in my mind is, I hope so. But with that, Jim, I'll hand it back to you for any final comments from our panel. I mean, what a great story. Thank you so much. And it's been an honor being a part of this panel. Thank you.
Helen, thanks so much. Yeah, PIP 360, PAC next. I mean, recycling, and of course, our next session is going to be about digital watermarking. So I just, my mind just won't stop in terms of thinking about the potential of all of these technologies that we've just talked about. So I've got my own takeaways that I'd like to summarize with, but I'd like to hear from each one of you. Take a minute, take 30 seconds, take up to a minute. And what's the most important takeaway that you want to leave behind for our audience going forward? So ladies first, Sam, would you please offer up your thoughts?
Yeah. Two things. I really think that we need to come together as an industry and make tactile and digital PACs a reality. So, you know, you saw the consumer experience, but we're competing on real estate, on packages. So how can we, just like what the last comment Alan made, is we need to make sure that we can serve the consumer need to understand what's in the package, but also the recycling, you know, manufacturing, and making it all so that it can all be maybe done in this one 30 by 30 inch stamp sized code, or whatever, but we need something in the industry so that we can all just confidently go shopping and make sure that our packs are recycled and everything like that. So I just want it all on every pack. So
Thank you so much, Sam. Pete?
Yeah, I think, again, two things going back to how I ended the presentation was about taking that first step. So we don't know all the answers. We're trying to share with each other. It's not proprietary. We want everybody to improve the accessibility of their packaging. But you've got to take the first step, try some things out. If they don't work, try something else. It will evolve. And just finally, I think I'm just going to steal a line from, we had, I mentioned the work from our design agency, and they've been working with somebody from Cambridge University to try and get some better insights to this. And something they said the other day was, you've got to design for your future self, which I thought was really interesting, because this isn't just for people born with sight loss or disabilities. We're faced with like an aging population and degenerative conditions which will affect all of us. So think about that when you're going through the design process.
Pete, thank you so much. Mark, close it out for us. Bring us home.
No, to build on what Sam and Pete have said, I'm going to end with see your packaging differently, and embed accessibility in the initiation of any project that you do, and take time to learn about some of the disabilities and out there, that you can change this. There are technology is evolving all the time. We now have it at our disposal, and we've talked about a simple artwork change today, but we have a real opportunity here to do something incredible. And it's been fantastic to share this and hear from Pete and Sam, and be able to talk about such an important but exciting future.
Well, I can't really add anything to the words of you three people. It's amazing. I mean, I'm just so proud to have met you. I'm so proud to be here with you today, and continued good luck on this journey. And take that first step, everybody. And well done, congratulations. And now we've got to transition over to our next session. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Dan, over to you, my friend.
Thank you, Jim. That was an amazing session. I don't know how we can follow up with it except by these three gentlemen that I've got here next, ahead of lunch. That was fantastic. So yes, hello, my name is Dan Lance. I'm the PAC Next Director for Canada, and I have a great session here. As Jim mentioned, it's on digital watermarking, but it's more than that. It's digitalization, recycling, circularity, and the new paradigm for packaging. And with me today, joining us from other countries, we have Tyler Metasevich. I hope I got that right, Tyler. Bert Ritzerfeld and Nicholas Lorenz will be joining us. I'm just going to quickly introduce each one of them, and then we will get right to it. Give me 10 seconds here. So Tyler, I have to do this. I'm sorry. I'm a pain in the butt, but I'll let him explain in a minute what this means. But at Digimarc, Tyler serves as the voice of the industry and works to define the sustainability pathways for the company. He works closely with trade groups and government to create an environment receptive to adoption of circular economy principles, address EPR fees and essential requirements, helps clear the path from external barriers to adoption. He works with ecosystems of customers, suppliers, influencers, policymakers, where he provides expertise to improve recycling, sustainability, and circularity, and the role that Digimarc can play in those areas. He's also instrumental in running programs and projects that involve MRFs, trade groups, and industrial sorting and reclamation facilities. I could go on and on about Tyler, but in the fairness of time, I'm going to move on to our next speaker. And Bert, I won't do this to you. So Bert was a nice guy, so he didn't pass an opinion. Bert is a packaging background with strong expertise in reprography. God, I practiced that all morning. Since joining the GK Group in 2007. He's been responsible for client management and print production and is currently working as client director for CPG and SME Digimarc Technology, or SGK EMEA. He is also the lead of the Holy Grail project for SGK. So I'd like you to welcome him. And finally, Nicholas, and I have to do this to you, Nicholas. I know that the Habs won, so don't bug me. Right? I was alive when the Leafs last won the Stanley Cup in 1967, but I can still hold out hope. So, see, I even got a little tear up here where it's I burned right through the hat. So, anyhow, Nicholas is the chief commercial officer with PAC. He was born in Mannheim, Germany in 1968. So he's a young punk. I was 61. He joined PAC in September 2014 as a Northern Europe managing director and later moved to the position of vice president of sales. Since 2019, he's also been a board member of Petcor Europe and co-chair of the trade working group. He has, in his words, profound knowledge, which I'm more than sure he's going to share with us today, in areas such as packaging and product technology, sustainable growth, customer care, trades, and sales. So I would like to welcome Tyler up first, and I won't put those on again, gentlemen, but don't do that to me again. So anyhow, I turn it over to you, Tyler. Thank you, and good luck.
All right, thanks. I just gotta say, go Pack, go. All right. All right, hopefully you can screen now. All right. So, hi everyone. As Dan said, I'm Tyler Matusevich with Digimarc, helping lead our sustainability efforts. And today I'll share with you new developments that seek to address our challenges with plastics in our landfills and oceans, and how we can create a true circular economy. So first, a brief word about Digimarc. We are pioneers and world leaders in the field of digital watermarking as the trigger for automatic identification of any media object, whether that's print, labels, packaging, audio, and even in three-dimensional forms such as plastics and metals. And for a small public company, we have invested significantly in the development of a form of digital watermarking identifier that we call the Digimok Barcode. And I won't go into details in the graphic here, but we have repeatedly entered into different market categories and deployments and have been acknowledged for our contributions. And most recently, we will talk about today in recycling and sustainability. So what we do, we do two fundamental things here at Digimarc. We identify by enhancing media with Digimok Barcode on things such as packaging and labels. And secondly, we discover through automatic detection of the Digimok Barcode, such as detection modules in recycling. So the Digimok Barcode is just one element of our large platform. And by creating a digital identity in objects, as here with packaging, there are numerous opportunities to capture value and data at every step of the package journey, whether it's in parts matching or track and trace applications, retail store efficiencies, consumer engagement, or to improve the efficiencies in sortation and recycling. We say that the platform provides value from birth to rebirth of the object. And I'll have to reference the Digimok Barcode as its unique characteristics were those under study in Holy Grail 1.0 and currently in Holy Grail 2.0. The barcode consists of two signal components: the message signal, which carries structured data such as UPC, EAN, SKU, internal tracking data, or other GS1 attributes. And the other component is the synchronization signal, which tells us the relationship between the viewing device and the object. So we know distance, skew, rotation, and they are combined to make up a signal tile and show here at its typical size of 2.2 centimeters. The signal tile will be replicated throughout the package, which I'll show you next, with no discernible structure as perceived by humans, as with a 1D or 2D visual symbology. So here's an application in printed artwork, which Bert will talk more about in the next presentation. But here in this case is the shrink sleeve. You see the repeated tile, the repeated signal tile is encoded into the graphic design in a mosaic manner using Adobe Photoshop. And this tile is then created using the existing pixels that make up the design. The pixels are modulated in color or contrast to create the tile. And then the package is run on press using no special inks or printing process. And a unique attribute of this approach is that an intact signal tile is not required for detection. So portions of the tiles can be used to recover the barcode. And this is particularly important when you think of the crushing and soilage of objects coming into a waste facility. And I have an example of that later on. So now we don't say that the effect is invisible. Brand managers and designers have a very good eye. And so there will be a subtle effect that they may catch. So we say the effect is visually imperceptible and won't be detected by consumers in normal everyday situations. So once that package is printed, it appears to consumers as it did prior to the enhancement process. But to computing devices with a camera and software components, it performs as you see on the right-hand side. Again, we are using the vertical bars of a 1D code for illustration purposes, but there is no human discernible structure to that code. And now here you see an example of a 3D enhanced product or package. And I'll let Nicholas talk a bit more about that later. I won't steal his thunder. And so what we did is we coined the term digital recycling passport a few years back. And there are virtually unlimited codes available, and the process turns the package into an Internet of Things object connected to the cloud. This addresses the weaknesses of NIR in that we know the manufacturer and product, whether there was prior food versus non-food contact, whether that package is recyclable versus compostable, and even the composition of layers in multi-layer packaging. And it can address carbon black and other difficult to recycle objects. It also has advantages in new material introductions, as the system doesn't have to be trained. Whether in print or in plastics, this approach is compatible with the circular economy, as there are no environmental impacts or additives to the materials. So digital watermarking just simply uses what is already there. So again, versus near infrared, in the NIR approach, there's an attempt to determine the object based on color or spectral analysis. And in digital watermarking, we invert that model where the digital watermarking puts the intelligence into the object, which is being read, and then informs the system of its composition and related data. Now, much of the efforts and press releases that you may have seen about Digimarc or the Holy Grail 2.0 initiative are probably centered around the increased efficiencies in sortation technology, but there's also an effort on driving consumer engagement to increase waste collections. We will never have enough feedstock to increase the recyclate to meet the current targets of brand owners without greater consumer participation. And in this case, the consumer scans the package for confirmation of recyclability and acceptance at the user's own waste provider in their region. This can be based on geolocation or a selection of one's curbside provider or municipal facility. It's also an opportunity to link to a brand's sustainability practices to learn, how was my food grown, or additional intersections such as how to better use or enjoy the product, or additional offers and promotions. So in this slide, we see a timer module, and the approach from the sorting equipment manufacturers is that the detection units will be delivered as an add-on module. This means the facility has a lower CapEx spend and doesn't have to discard the existing NIR unit. The two systems would just work in parallel. So over time, the components specified for digital watermarking will be more integrated with NIR into a single shipping unit. Now, in this slowed down video, you will see an example of a conveyor belt at a MRF running at a typical 3 meters per second. You can think of each of these green dots as a Digimarc detection point. So to my earlier point that in crushed and soil packaging, which is often the case, we can still read the partial codes and get an accurate detection. The sortation equipment will utilize two databases, which are downloaded periodically from the cloud. The database will be hosted by a neutral, trusted third party to the industry. And here you see a concept of the two databases, one for print and one for plastics. And the facility can sort based on these attributes, and additional data fields will be utilized. There's a study right now underway across the industry to determine the categorization of these attributes. So I mentioned earlier the Holy Grail initiatives. Holy Grail 2.0 is being facilitated by AIM, which is the European Brands Association, which has over 2,500 members. And in the next slide, I'll show you a short video promotion about the promise of the initiative. So I hope you enjoy. Sorry. All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that. And now I just want to talk a little bit about the membership of Holy Grail. And currently there are well over 100 members in this cross value chain collaboration. They include brands, retailers, printer and packaging converters, sorting equipment manufacturers, global waste service providers, trade organizations, NGOs, such as the Ellen MacArthur Foundation and World Wildlife Fund. So it's truly a case of chicken and the egg. And this is why there's participation across the ecosystem. Now, I won't address this slide in detail. It's a lot to read and a lot of links there, but digital watermarking is already being addressed in various European Commission plans and initiatives. An example is the essential requirements for packaging, in which there is the potential that digital watermarking will be a requirement of packaging in the EU by 2030. Other documents address the need to support the development of digital watermarking and that they become the means to accurately measure recycling rates for reduction in fees paid by brands if they include the digital identifier. And this may be even more relevant for Ontario in a few years, as I saw the other day that they're moving to full EPR on producers between 2023 and 2025 versus the current partial EPR system. Just a little bit more here, a number of other initiatives address the concept of a digital product passport. We are in early discussion on how digital watermarking may play a role in support of those efforts. This slide just shows some of the global and country level initiatives that we are signatories of, such as the EU and US Plastics PAC. And I know recently the Canada Plastics PAC launched, so kudos to all the activators and to George. So just quickly a slide about some of the recognition we have received for our efforts to drive system-wide change in sustainability and recycling. And then that's it. So thank you for allowing me to share how digital watermarking may be a solution to help address the environmental issues, not just with plastics, but with all of our waste. And now I'll pass it over to Bert and then Nicholas to go into a bit more detail. And Dan, I just kind of stress it again, go PAC, go.
Thank you, Tyler, for the great presentation. And also from my side, going to Dan, go PAC, go. We'll see you next season. I will share my screen now. I think now it should work. What we'll do at SGK, firstly, we'll take an approach on how to be sustainable, on how to support our clients and the industry in getting more sustainable. I think this will be a topic we have to face right now at the moment, is getting up to speed, and we face the pressure also from the market and also from the European Union. Before I move on, just a few key facts to on SGK for those who are not familiar with our company. We're founded in 553, contributed a great experience and dedication to packaging with more than 6,800 employees in over 65 locations around 20 plus countries worldwide. So we just don't do just packaging. I think we do everything around it. And but I would like to give you an insight also into the Holy Grail project and the technology behind it, the Digimarc technology. But first, I want to share with you some consumer insights. First of all, I think we all know this, sustainable packaging is no longer a nice to have. It is definitely a must have. And we have to move on from this point on to find solutions for everything which will follow this. When you see this, for example, 65% of the consumers associate plastic with ocean pollution. and also 57% of consumers associated plastic was harmful. And this is not good. This is not good at all, especially for us in the packaging industry or using plastic packaging on a broad scale. So, but the good thing is, oh, sorry, that was one too fast. 60 to 74% of the consumers say they would pay more for sustainable packaging. And I think these figures shows how strong and the topic of sustainability and personal responsibility has already reached consumers and ultimately also influences their purchasing decisions. We all face this great challenge of addressing these issues and finding a solution together. And what Tyler also already mentioned, the European goals, such as the European Green Deal, have clearly brought the areas of circular economy, waste, secondary raw materials, plastics in general, and also product responsibility into focus. These targets are challenging and ambitious, to say at least, and it requires a whole new approach on technological solutions from us in many areas. And in a central position for solving some of these issues are the Holy Grail project. And so in conjunction with the Holy Grail project, we think that our experience, expertise, and also our long-time partnership with Digimarc positions us as a partner for the implementation of the pilot project and the meeting of its objectives. The Digimarc technology enables basically to fulfill these sustainability goals, have increased transparency, and also create further platforms for connected packaging. So SGK and Digimarc, or how can we support sustainability goals and other benefits within the circular economy and of course the Holy Grail project? The question is how we can achieve a circular economy in the European Union. I think the three ingredients in this project are innovation, sustainability, and digital, and combined to achieve the goal of the Green Deal towards a clean, circular, and carbon neutral economy. But before we can understand what digital watermarks are, we need to understand the crucial problem. 4 years ago, when the Holy Grail initiative firstly was launched, it was clear to leaders that poor recycling was having a critical impact on our environment. So even when consumers have disposed of product packaging in accordance with the regulations, packaging is not properly sorted at recycling facilities and thus removed from the circular economy. Since this is fundamentally contrary to the purpose of recycling, brands, retailers, and also manufacturers had to find a solution. And to that, more than 130 leading companies from the entire value chain has come together under the leadership of the AIM to jointly find a solution for sustainability and ultimately establish it as a technological standard. And the Digimarc technology was identified as a central technological solution for this. So let's move on and say that we have challenges, even with Digimarc technology. There are different light requirements for the various applications of the Digimarc code. So the technology used to identify and read the code differs in subsegments of the value chain. The human eye, smartphones, and tablets recognize the full color spectrum of the complete product design. While recycling and retail, cash-out application, and inline inspections and production can only recognize a limited part of the printed color. So we take these requirements into account when evaluating and subsequently implementing the code. And what it looks like, I would like to show you. As you can see here, this is an actual example what we have done within the Holy Grail project. It's just plain and simple a label. It's gravure printing. It's a 5-color setup, so CYK and a spot color. And what we do is we evaluate the artwork file under consideration of the printing process, the existing colors, and also the substrate. So this enables us to ensure the best implementation of the Digimarc code. And as I like to say, as invisible as possible and as strong as necessary to match both. On one side, the brand expectations, and on the other side, to secure the production workflow at the print supplier. And honestly, a lot of existing products are already quite suitable for the implementation of the Digimok barcode, and also doesn't need any change of supplier production workflow or, for example, usage of an additional color or varnish. So under consideration of the printing process, substrating colors, even good results can already be achieved without having to modify the existing design. So after the evaluation is what we do. We receive the print-ready files at our site and our studio, and which are prepared for specific printing conditions, substrate and colors. And on this basis, we define a strategy for how and in which color we will best use the code. As Tyler mentioned, it is essentially a 2x2 centimeter tile with roughly the size of a postage stamp. So which is repeated multiple times on the printed packaging good. And the code itself, it's definitely so robust that even fragments of the codes can be recognized and still be linked to the correct information behind the code. In this example, we have integrated the Digimok barcode in CMYK. This is a great example. We've got a huge area of image in the background. We've got a CMYK set up, and it is perfect for us to hide the code. And it's almost invisible to the consumer. So if you don't know that the code is in place, you won't recognize it. Even experts cannot recognize the code if they didn't know in which area the code is implemented on. What we have also considered in this is the brand claim that we have excluded in the implementation to ensure the brand identity. And this implementation is followed by a quality check and also an enhancement report with all needed information for our clients on this side and also for the print suppliers who have to produce this packaging good. So it's simply described, it's an almost invisible code that contains really all necessary information, such as manufacturer, distributor, SKU, the type of plastic used, mono or multi-layer, food or non-food instructions, or on the other hand, consumer information. So we take care of everything within this process. Firstly, the communication to all stakeholders, the tailor-made implementation, and also a comprehensive quality control. This is an integral part of our workflow when implementing the code into existing designs. And this is what we do with existing designs. But let's have a look how sustainable design could look like. So mostly existing designs are suited for Digimok barcode. So if the design have a decent size and the color setup is okay, it's basically good to go for the implementation. But with slight adjustments can result in an even better performance of the detection of the code. So with our knowledge and experience, we support our clients in identifying existing products to see if the design is already suitable for sorting. And it is possible really to achieve a perfect balance between a very good readability of the Digimarc code and a minimum visual impact with just minor changes and adjustments to the design. The brand identity and of course general print quality can be protected with a slightly change of design details like background colors, intelligent placements of claims, and a resilient structure on, for example, backsides with instructions, different language clusters, ingredients, or the barcode itself. And what we have done in this example, we just removed the new claim, scaled the label by around 20%, reduced the barcode size on the front, because I think in the future it is not necessary to have a barcode in general, and also deleted the 3 claims on the front. And these adjustments leads to 30% improved area for the Digimarc code, and also a great detection rate within the sorting stream or at home use for the consumer. But so why not take a proactive approach for these ready for sorting aspect? I think this approach should be best considered in the early design phase, and it makes it possible to attract and inform the customer at the POS, and ideally start an engagement and interaction with your product at home. So connect your customer to you to meet both your sustainability and also your responsibility approach towards the customer. Highlight your engagement and dedication to the circular economy to each and everyone. So you can see the slogan bar here on the right side. It says, I am ready for sorting. Just show your approach and transport your message to the customer. And here you can see all 3 designs, slightly adjusted with minor changes, and in the end, absolutely ready for sorting and every other aspect and opportunity out of this great Digimarc technology. And with this approach, you're absolutely good to go. And we at SGK can support you with our technology, our experience, our creative design, and also our global network. And starting with the comprehensive consulting and design strategy and evaluation of existing designs, complete technical implementation, up to qualification and support of brands, retailers, and suppliers. And last but not least, an effective project management and quality control throughout the whole process and all stakeholders. And I hope I have give you a first inside look into our process and approach within this great technology and the Holy Grail project. I think it's almost impossible to dive deep into more details with just in 12 minutes. So if you have any additional questions on the technology and the implementation process itself, feel to ask these questions during the Q&A session. So this is from my side. I want to say thank you, and I want to hand over to Nicholas.
Yes. So, so if you allow me then to share my screen, then
wait,
yeah.
Just wait a second.
Good. Thank you. So it's a good morning in Canada. For me, it's already the afternoon. So thank you for hosting me and giving me the opportunity to share my view on digital watermarks and how they will make a change in the future world of packaging, and what this means with regards to what has to happen that we will make it possible. I would like to start with something, with a small video for you that we are all coming to the same point where we stand as of today. Where is it? Here we are. So, whoops, sorry. Can I ask the question, was the tone recognizable?
Yes, it was very good.
Oh, thank you. Because my headset was not working at that moment. So sorry for that, for this question. So why have I presented this video to you? Because I would like to make everyone aware what happens in the market. So therefore, we have on packaging, and it's not only about plastic packaging, we have a very negative recognition about the material itself. It ends up in the ocean. And politicians are reacting on that. And I would like to share some things which are maybe also applicable for you then later on in North America or in any kind of country of this world. But what has the EU Commission has done is, I would like to share this with you. So it was in 2015, the EU has created the vision for a circular plastic economy. And they have given a lot of promises to that, because they said, hey, listen, guys, we are going over there. We will help the packaging industry. We would like to secure that all of the waste which we are generating will be reused, repaired, or recycled. And this should bring growth, jobs to Europe, and helps to cut the EU greenhouse gas emission and dependence on imported fossil fuels. Unfortunately, I have to tell you this one is that politicians have reacted completely different. They started now with certain activities. We come to that point in a minute, that they are banning the plastic. They are describing new regulations. And what have they not done is that they do not take into consideration the environmental impact. So therefore, there is no thought process in terms of when we recycle, what kind of positive impact has this on the PEF, the product environmental footprint, or the CO2 balance? Secondly, when we are talking about alternative materials which are coming into the market, why should we, and let me provoke here a bit, we have a growing population on this planet, and we would like now to change agricultural land into raw materials for packaging? I'm not sure if this is really helping the planet. So therefore, we have seen that how many of the rainforest will be transferred, the paper will be taken away from us to create sugarcane, for example, in Brazil, which is the base of a PLA as a replacement of PET. And one important message I would like to deliver: degradable products are not circular. And circularity is the only thing how we can save this planet. there is no real concept from the EU at the moment. So therefore they are banning, that's the only thing what they're doing. So therefore at this moment they have made single-use plastic directive, they are banning certain products, which by the way would be recyclable. So therefore if they would really support the recycling industry and making things happen, we would have solutions much earlier than their 2030 targets. We see as well that the financial support is completely missing. So I tried with my company to get some funding for certain development work in the material which we are using, that we can make the recycling stream much better. Still now, after 12 months, I nearly have given up because this is so complicated to get fundings of that. This maybe depends on the name of the company or the project. I do not know, but it's not easy to make it happen. Taxes will be implemented. Not sure if these kind of thought processes in other countries outside of Europe. I concentrated on the European ones, Spain, Italy, the UK, they're coming with taxes. But none of this money will be reinvested in the industry to make waste collection, recycling, waste avoidance, to use this. No, it's used for the budget of the country. And what we do not have is really a control of that. So therefore, if someone is saying producing somewhere on this world a product, is shipping it into an economy like in the European zone or maybe to North America, and then they're saying it's produced out of 100% recyclate. No one is protecting us. Where is the measure? Is there any kind of control which allows us to secure that what this person has said, this manufacturer said, that this is proven? So what has to happen? Now I have complained a lot, so therefore I have to deliver a solution as well. And the only way to save the planet, sustainability, main target, nice word, but what does it mean behind it? We need a business model which is changing the single-use thinking. That the business model is sustainable, that we have circularity, that we are always in control of what we produce, and that we are responsible to reuse. A sustainability report is needed, which gives everyone the understanding of what the economy and environmental and the social performance is, for all of the aspects what we do. We need authorities and institutions which help us to set the goals and monitor them. We need the awareness of the environmental aspect. I'll give you an example for now. People, we have beautiful opportunities to make mechanical recycling. Now we are talking about chemical recycling. Chemical recycling has a massive environmental negative aspect. So why is this discussed? And we need the right investments to secure the value creation. This is where the funding has to come. Marketing, massive and important point. I like it that we have these kind of events, these kind of opportunities to talk about what has to happen, but we have to deliver this information to the market. That the commitment from the industry, that this will create the ideas, that the consumers recognize our efforts to make it happen. No conflicting messages. This creates rejection. Information and not education. So we all have been in school and we hate that when we are educated. I have now a son, he hates it when I would like to explain something about that and educate him about this. Make it in a nice information way, maybe with a movie, what we have seen. And the interaction through events, definitely like an event what we're doing today, but other events that everyone in this world is recognizing the efforts, the packaging industry, the brand owners, everyone is taking to make waste a valuable good, that it can be recycled and reused. But what's the way forward to that? There's only one way, digitalization. We need a digital identity of all of packaging. What does it do? It changes the process of objects and events. So therefore the interaction with the consumer is easy. You will see later on how this works. We need tools which allow us immediate reaction on this unexpected changes in a world which has a lot of dynamic. This is where we are living in. We have to allow, see, listen, if I would now take this kind of solution and I would, as a manufacturer of packaging, I would love to be the sole supplier of this to the world, but then it's not accepted. So therefore, I also have to secure that all of our competitors have access to this kind of solution. And the product monitoring at any moment in time, track and trace, you will see this in a minute. So what does it say? Digitalization leads us into the digital identity and brings us to the topic of the Digimarc barcode. how does it looks like? So follow this video.
Excellent choice. The digital identity is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Not only because it is a groundbreaking technology for the recycling industry, but because we are the first packaging manufacturer to introduce the capability to apply a digital watermark commercially for rigid packaging surfaces. In partnership with Digimarc, we are utilizing the Digimok Barcode, a code that creates a unique digital identity in the physical structure of plastic. This will allow us to achieve high-quality sorting and therefore enables us to recycle a product and all its individual components. Chief Evangelist of Digimarc, Larry Logan, will tell you more about it in a second. Let's see if this works. Hey, Larry, good to see you. How are you today?
Hello, Nicholas. It's a pleasure to be here. I mean, at least virtually. And thank you for our close working relationship. The Digimarc barcode is either engraved in the mold or printed on a label on the outer packaging. This gives the package a digital intelligence, turning it into an Internet of Things object connected to the cloud. The code can be detected by a wide variety of machines and smartphones. For print, our process takes the existing design and enhances the artwork with the code, but there are no special inks or printing processes required. The artwork can be used in supply chains to track and trace goods, to speed checkout at the market, or engage consumers through smartphones. For 3D and plastic, PAC engraves the barcode into the mold, creating a subtle, decorative embossing effect. In essence, we are giving the plastic a digital recycling passport. Now, when packaging waste is collected, it can be scanned and absolutely identified. This will create new value streams for recycled plastics and keep used packaging from ending up in landfills and our oceans. Digimarc Barcode is but one component of the Digimarc platform for automatic identification of objects all across the supply chain, helping retailers and consumer brands meet the complex challenges of today's marketplace.
Thank you, Larry, for explaining our joint venture, the digital identity. See you soon.
So, the code reveals everything. Everything you need to know for good recycling. By the way, let me tell you, the Digimarc barcode can do more than that, but we are focusing now is how can we secure that all of the packaging material will be sorted. So, this is an example as also shown before by Tyler. The first time is that we have to differentiate between food and non-food packaging. We all know the regulation is there. It's telling us if you want to use a recyclate, you have to prove that this was before a food package. No one wants to have a battery blister now around his yogurt. Of course not. So therefore, we would like to be all rest assured that all the products which are coming in are sorted properly in the right fraction. Colored multi-layer packaging, differentiation. We have so many kind of different materials. We would like to secure that we can sort them properly and get them in the right recycle bin. And we have to differentiate as well, because we have different materials out there, maybe what is compostable and what is recyclable. As I said, I'm not a big fan of this compostable stuff because I think this is not helping us, but the recyclability and the separation of that is important. So we have brought the first time a digital barcode on the surface of plastic packaging. And what we can do with that is not only in terms of the recycling. Any kind of apps can make the reading and help us, not only for the camera, which is in a sorting plant, but as well the engagement with the consumer, because you can identify very quickly my preferred brand. Are they using the right material, the sustainable material, which is helping to save the planet? We will show you that. So this is now an app. Sorry, it's in German, but you see this in a second in English as well. So the reading of a gray tray also happens, different identification. It shows it's a gray. And then last but not least, the most difficult one. Who said that black plastic is not recyclable? I can convince you it is. So this is how it looks like. That is a digital proposal, a passport proposal of a product. So therefore, what you can see is the code is over there. you can see food or non-food. What is it? It's food. I have been a food package before. My material was 100% recyclate, not a single virgin in. That's my weight. And the ecological balance, yeah, it depends. You can make it easier. I have taken one which is a more scientific one, is shown over there. Is it recyclable? Of course. And you can use me for any kind of food. And for example, if you want, you can also put behind the code who has produced it. 3 versions are needed. You have learned earlier from Bert something about printing. It's important. Printing, now, sorry for that, but printing is easy. It's a technology we know for years. So therefore, in the middle, the traditional printing, there's the code on it. It's proven, you will identify that. Then you have an in-mold label on the right side. That's the same. It's injection molded product. You have the label on it. This has a code as well, can be identified. But we have to complete everything that every pack can be recognized as well when there is no printing. And this is the 3D plastic packaging. And therefore, we have completed with the Digimarc barcode and the digital identity, the sorting of any kind of product, of any kind of material, and will help us to have an efficient sorting in place. So, PACOR and Digimarc, we have to develop the digital identity to save the planet. That's an easy job. We do that, and in parallel, that's a complicated job. We will save the plastic industry as well. Thanks for letting me presenting my view on the digital identity, and I hope that you will join me in putting this on your products in the future.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. And if I can get everybody to come back on, great. Thank you, Tyler and Bert. I have a number of questions. I'm going to, we've only got about 5 minutes before we have to start wrapping up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get right into the questions that were posted online. So Tyler, I'm going to read it verbatim, just because I don't like people thinking I'm cutting what they're saying short, but it says, I don't mean to criticize, but doesn't digital watermarking for recycling information just shift the responsibility towards consumers? I mean, it still relies on consumers to bring the package back to a recycling center. Are there any data to show that it helps increase the recycling rate?
Yeah, so good question. I'll say there's kind of 2 parts to this question, and the consumer could scan that digital watermark, as I showed earlier, and get info about how and where to recycle, which could help increase the recycling rate. Ultimately, yes, the consumer still needs to do their part, whether a deposit system or a single stream or a return and reuse system. But just part of Holy Grail 2.0, there is a 95% threshold for sortation, so it's a very high rate. And then also, our tech could help with eco-modulation fees associated with an EPR program by being able to detect, exactly who the manufacturer is and what it contains and where it's from, for example. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
So does the digital watermark then, is it capable when somebody scans it, say in Wisconsin, as they're sitting here at the Packers game, as opposed to Chicago, that because there's a difference in the recycling programs between those 2 areas, then they would know exactly what to do with it by the geolocation on the
right
when they scan it?
Yeah, so we're not like fully there yet, obviously, but the capability does exist to do that for sure.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, I appreciate you gentlemen jumping in and answering questions that were posted online, but I'm going to go back and because unfortunately, as you type, the question disappears and people can't see your answer. So what I'm going to do is I'll go back and ask those questions as well here. So are there consumer research data this is for Bert, from the SGK presentation consumers from Europe, or are they worldwide statistics?
These are worldwide statistics. It's one of the McKinsey and Company report, and the other one is from the 2020 Global Buying Green report. So these are the worldwide numbers.
Great, thank you, Bert. For Tyler, or actually any of the members on the panel here, are there any security issues with digital watermarking? By that I mean, can the information about the product be edited so the product could bypass the legislation?
Yeah, I'll answer first, and then if they have anything to add, they can. And I'll basically kind of chime in what I said in the chat. But that data management piece is something that AIM, so the European Brands Association, is kind of running Holy Grail 2.0. They're working on that in one of the work packages. So there's 9 different work packages that are underway, and data is a part of that. But if you just think about how barcodes are kind of managed today, whether it's through third party or GS1, so no, not exactly, no. No security issues, I would say.
Okay, does anybody else want to add anything? Nicholas, Bert? No, okay. One more for Tyler here. When you say neutral and trusted server or cloud provider, is this a rate limiting or cost limiting step for integration of technology?
Yeah, so what I said back to John is basically there is a cost associated, of course, but I'd be happy to follow up regarding that. So if he reaches out to me either on LinkedIn or via email, I'll be happy to take that a bit further.
Okay. Anybody, if by participants, or thank you. And for those of you who are online, are there any other questions? Please post them. I've got some other questions outside of what's online here that I'd like to present. So for Nicholas, after forming the object, after forming the object usually shrinks a little bit due to plastic cooling. Does that present any challenges in code readability?
No. Very simple answer, no. So what we have, the process of thermoforming obviously is something which is it's a temperature process, means heat and cooling in one go. And we have now made several tests. We've proven it. There is one of with the Holy Grail 1.0 project in the open house of Tomra, where we have proven that a high 90% reading will happen as well on the plastic, only where there's no printing. And when it's only on the surface of plastic, it's a high percentage of 90% the reading. And when we have made only a reading with the trace, it was 100%.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that. If the in the molding, the Digimarc label goes on the outside of the package. So what happens if it goes down the belt facing with the body upwards? So in other words, where the product goes, are you Digimok watermarking on both sides, or how would it read it if it can't see the outside of the package?
That is also one of the surprises which we have been able to deliver earlier to other audiences. We know the specification, exactly what the foil thickness has to be that you can read from all sides. So we have seen that as well with the black, with opaque, with transparent is easy because it's reading from the inside and outside. There's no difference. So therefore, where the camera is coming from. But the opaque or colored trays, and therefore, if you go to a certain level of a thickness of the tray, you can read the code as well inside.
Okay, thank you. For Bert, do you need any special inks, plates, substrates, or changing in printing technology to use the technology?
No, not at all. We've done thousands of enhancements so far for example, for a German retailer who used this Digimok Barcode for his own private label product range. And as you can imagine, we have done tons of different packaging materials and different printing technologies. And there's almost everything we're faced with. And I can say about 99.5% that we can stay within the existing print production workflow. And also we can say within the exact established color setup. So the used inks, the used before, which are in the design, we can use for the implementation. There is normally no special ink needed to implement the barcode. Sometimes we add an additional color. It's just for the visual impact. So if we got a plain white foil and they have to apply a color with a black, apply the code with a black color, it's visible. So that's the reason why we sometimes change to another color to make it more invisible and more suitable for the brands, to be honest.
Okay. Thank you, Bert.
Then can I answer one question which was addressed to Tyler? But sure. This is, I think, important. And I'm repeating in any kind of event where I can go to, when it was said that the digital watermark is shifting the responsibility to the consumer. It's exactly the opposite. See, the thing is, we have to think about what is a consumer. The consumer has to purchase a product and consume it, nothing else. What we do not want as a packaging industry, and neither the brand owners, the product owner, we do not want to make more jobs and create more jobs for the consumer after usage. We want him to enjoy the product, whatever product it will be. When you take the digital watermark, he can throw it into his normal bin. The only thing is what you should not do, please don't throw it into the ocean, because then we can't do anything about that. But when you put it in a normal bin in the waste collection, it can be sorted wherever a camera in the sorting plant is in. So therefore it's the opposite, not the consumer is getting more responsibility. We have taken this away, and I think and I feel that's the responsibility of a packaging industry to find solutions that the products are not giving any kind of extra effort or burdens to the consumer.
Thank you very much. Just a comment I've got from Crystal Howe from Ice River. She likes the idea of the label with the embedded Digimarc, but she says she's concerned about avoiding the increased label size for implementation, because of course a lot of the labels aren't compatible with the underlying substructure. So in other words, if you're not, unless you're putting a PET label on top of a PET bottle or a polypropylene that can go with the caps, and of course it becomes a contaminant for her process. I would echo that. I actually had that down as one of my comments. I'm going to ask one more quick question, then I'm going to turn it over to each of you for one final comment. So what can you include in the digital watermarking information? For example, could you include blockchain analysis? Everybody's now curious and wanting to know where everything comes from. Could that be all included in the digital watermark?
Yeah, well, yeah. So basically any content you can think of could be there, including blockchain. But as you saw, there are multiple use cases from, like I said, brand protection, recycling, track and trace, and many others, right? And one of the biggest benefits of the technology and platform is that the dynamic content that it enables. So from like a brand owner perspective, you could run different campaigns of the digital content, whether it's each day or each week, without changing any of the physical elements. And that data collected through the campaigns could then improve your marketing capabilities or your strategies.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, just everybody, we're just coming right up on time here. So 30 seconds, I'll go in reverse order. Nicholas, do you want to give us your final thoughts, please?
My final thoughts. Join me in getting the digital watermarks on the packaging. It's so easy to apply. It has a lot of values also from a marketing perspective, because the interaction with the consumers is a great chance for all of the brand owners as well, and it helps all of the recyclers to sort much easier. And allow me to say that because my friend John de Belder is also in the call. I will say Holy Grail another time, and I hope I have met his expectation.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Bert.
Honestly, from our point of view, I think this is not just individual from my point or as SGK. I think the topic of being more sustainable to deliver a solution for all the problems we're faced with in the future is there, and we need to change something. And we, as an industry, especially with the contact to the brands and the CPGs, and helping them and support them with the solutions, is a key part of the things to come. And yeah, I'm proud to really be part of this project and be part of this technology to be able to make our world more sustainable for every generation in the future.
Thank you very much, Bert. And Tyler, last word to you.
Yeah, so first I want to address Crystal's comment. You can put it in the label or in the mold of the packaging, as we saw earlier. So it can kind of go both ways. And then also there are, I worked for a label company in my previous company, and there are label technologies, whether it's shrink or pressure sensitive, that are better for the recycling process than other labels that have different adhesives and things like that. But anyways, I guess I would just leave with, let's work together as the packaging industry at large scale to drive the change, and not just kind of work in these silos of innovation. And again, I think our technology at Digimarc has huge potential. We just need to harness it, and we need all of you to join that journey. And we saw in the last previous session, but we live in a digital world now. So yeah, let's just work together.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It was an extremely informative session. I look forward to it because I run recycling facilities, and having anything will help me increase my yields coming out of the facilities and increase efficiencies and quality of my bales. Is going to thrill me to death. So I can't wait to get it implemented. And with that, I turn it back over to Lindsay, who's got a few closing slides for the morning session. Thank you again.
Thank you.